and welcome to this Facebook Live event to talk about how the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, recently passed in Congress, will benefit Lake Tahoe. I am Julie Reagan. I am the Deputy Director of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I have the great pleasure to be here with U.S. Senator Alex Padilla and Jesse Patterson from the League to Save Lake Tahoe. And we are going to engage with you just for about 15 minutes about what this critical piece of legislation can do for us here in beautiful Lake Tahoe. And I must mention how pleased we are to see the Congress pass this bipartisan, bicameral piece of legislation. And it really harkens to what we've been doing here in Tahoe for decades. Lake Tahoe has never been just a Republican or a Democratic ideal or area to protect. We've always worked together in this fashion. So we are so grateful for the leadership of Senator Padilla and our entire congressional delegation in bringing this to our shores here at the lake, because we have so many pressing needs, which we will cover in just a few short minutes. I must say that Jesse from the League to Save Lake Tahoe and myself are only two of hundreds and hundreds of folks. We call ourselves Team Tahoe here at the lake. So we are just really honored to start this conversation. We have to hope to have a series of these conversations as we move forward to learn more about what this critical transformational piece of legislation will do for our country. It's important to note that our small rural community of only really around 55,000, and that's both in California and Nevada, swells to annual visitorship of about 15 million people. So our needs are great in the infrastructure arena. We obviously have one of the most beautiful lakes in the entire world, and we all want to protect it because it's not only for the benefit of future generations, but also it creates new jobs. So I am so honored to then turn this over to U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, the first Latino to represent the great state of California, and who I had the pleasure of working with here in Tahoe at our 25th annual summit just back in August. He was kind enough to host that wonderful event for us. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you, Julie. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you virtually today, but to have been with you at the summit. Can't believe it's the 25th annual summit, right? It's established quite a legacy already, but it was, for those who may not be familiar with the summit, a great annual opportunity where the governor of Nevada and California, the U.S. senators from Nevada and California, and other leaders come together to recommit to the effort to protect and improve Lake Tahoe. And I think this is a perfectly timed question and conversation for all the fanfare about the Infrastructure and Jobs Act that the president signed just a few weeks ago, and for all the chatter and excitement about the Build Back Better Act that's working its way through Congress. What does it mean for us? What does it mean for California? What does it mean for Lake Tahoe, the lake, and the surrounding communities? And I think there's a lot that we're excited about. So happy to have the opportunity to share here. And also just want to recognize that we're building on the legacy and the work of so many leaders over the 25 years of the summit and beyond. So thank you for everybody who's done their part, and the list of supporters of the lake just keeps growing.
Hi, Senator Padilla. So great to have you here. I represent the League to Save Lake Tahoe. We've been protecting Lake Tahoe for almost 65 years now, and our mission has remained unchanged because it's to keep Tahoe blue. And those three words, I think they mean the world to anyone that's ever been here. And that relies on lake clarity and our ability to combat, in one instance, aquatic invasive species. Can you please tell us more about the historic funding for this priority in the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act?
Sure, and let me just not just add myself, but my family to the list of all the people who have been to the lake, and keeping Tahoe blue means something special. And this in particular was a priority because at the end of that summit, I went out on that boat, I went out on the vessel with UC Davis to go see what they do each and every day, measuring clarity and taking the inventory of species and how the biology of Lake Tahoe changes over time. So it's important for folks to recognize that there's a $17 million specific appropriation under the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, within the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's specifically put there to help prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species in the lake, and to prevent the spread of invasive species like the quagga and zebra mussels, which would do irreparable damage to the lake if introduced. So whether it's inspections, whether it's the inspections of the boats that come in and out of the lake, we want to continue to support. And I'll just brag a little bit. This is the largest single appropriation under the 2016 law, the restoration and protection of Lake Tahoe. So wanting to make sure we keep our commitments here.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Senator. And we are so proud of our invasive species protection programs here at the lake. And my organization, the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, is pleased to co-lead that initiative with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Tahoe Resource Conservation District. And we really have built what we believe is one of the most protective prevention programs in the nation. And these funds will go a long way to modernize equipment, install new permanent infrastructure, because the threats are just growing. We actually intercepted a record number of boats that were infested with quagga mussels this past year. So the funding couldn't come at a more critical time, and we're again so grateful. I want to take us into the next topic, which is equally dangerous and one that we're all really still actually reeling from this summer: wildfire and the effects of the Caldor fire, which of course burned into the Tahoe Basin. We're not alone in Tahoe, with fires devastating California and the entire United States, western part of our country. We, back in August and into September, evacuated our whole community of South Lake Tahoe, about 30,000 people, and about 212,000 acres burned as a result of the Caldor fire. About 10,000 of those acres were right here in the basin, and some thought that fire wouldn't make it into Tahoe. Miraculously, thanks to world-class firefighting, prior preparation and investments in hazardous fuels reduction, some luck from Mother Nature with the wind shift, we were able to protect our community, and not one home was lost in Tahoe. And I personally live right in the burn area myself, Senator. So I really want to just thank you for your leadership to continue to bring more investment around hazardous fuels reduction and forest health and ecosystem restoration. And then ask you a little bit about what your thoughts are on some of the threats from fire, and how the infrastructure investments can really go a long way to help bolster our communities and make them more resilient from climate change threats in the future.
Yeah, no, and in some ways, the timing was perfect to remind me of that priority too. It's not just the lake itself, but really the bigger picture of the region and our changing climate. The day before the summit, I was up in Quincy at the command center, the firefighter personnel, multiple agencies working together with the Caldor fire, the Dixie fire that eventually merged. I remember how thick the smoke was while I was there for the summit, the concern about whether or not we'd be able to keep the summit because of air quality and other concerns. Again, it's a real example that climate change is not a concern about what may or may not happen 10, 20, 30 years from now. Californians are living it in real time. And it helped us make the case for some important provisions in the bipartisan infrastructure law, including a pretty big line item, $8 billion comprehensively for prevention, risk reduction, detection, and restoration of areas impacted by wildfires. It includes $1 billion nationally to carry out hazardous fuel reduction projects and prescribed burns across the United States, removing vegetation to make wildfires less severe and more easily contained. And there's an item that I know a lot of the local leaders are excited about, trying to access $500 million for a new community wildfire defense grant program to help better protect at-risk communities like Lake Tahoe. And of course, $600 million to transition more federal firefighters from seasonal to permanent positions, meaning over 1,000 new full-time firefighters. Again, a recognition that there's no more wildfire season anymore. It is a year-round risk, a year-round threat, and more permanent full-time firefighters, when they're not fighting fires, can do a lot of restoration work and a lot of the mitigation prevention work to try to minimize the impact of future fires. And last but not least, I got to brag that the first bipartisan bill that I introduced in the Senate, the Power On Act, which called for multi-billion-dollar investment in grants to work with states and utilities across the country to modernize the electrical grid, right? Not just for reliability purposes, but for resiliency purposes, mitigating wildfire risk and better withstand extreme weather, made it into the bipartisan infrastructure package to the tune of $5 billion. So we'll be working with local leaders in California to make sure that we access our fair share. And that's another important part of it, and look for the same level of priority and commitment to fight for initiatives in the Build Back Better Act, which we're still working to finalize.
That's fantastic. This year has been a year like no other, as we all have said. I remember being at the summit, which we didn't know we would have, watching the Caldor fire smoke plume behind us, and not knowing what was going to come. And it's been like a year like no other. Hopefully one we don't see again, the combination of low water, algae blooms, fires, all of these things we didn't expect to see. But like the picture behind me, I think a big snow season can help us remind us of all the wonderful things that we do here. We also can't forget that the LTRA is going to help fund water infrastructure, or the infrastructure bill will help fund water infrastructure, which is essential for fighting fire. So many great things in the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, in the infrastructure bill, and the recent bipartisan extension of the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, which we hope will pass, should pass, shows the public support and the dollars are there to continue this great work that we've done for multiple decades. It's not just about protecting it right now, it's about protecting it for the generations to come. I can't thank you, Senator, Julie, anyone that's been involved, all the people that can't be here today. This is truly a group effort, and it'll take all of us to continue to work forward. This conversation is one of many, I hope. It's a prime example of the type of collaboration that has taken place, that needs to take place to protect a unique wonder of the world like Lake Tahoe. So many people enjoy it. It's touched so many lives. We need to keep it here, and it requires all of us across the aisle to come together. It's one of many conversations, so keep an eye out for the next Facebook Live. We're going to be doing this again, bringing you updates on one of your favorite places at Lake Tahoe. And I think it really reminds me personally that whether you're a US Senator, whether you're a longtime resident of Tahoe, or whether you've been here just one time or you're coming next month, there's a role for all of us. Anyone that loves Lake Tahoe has a role to play. Together, we will keep Tahoe blue today and for generations to come. And I really do hope to see everyone at the lake this year or next year, because there's much more work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Senator. Thanks all for watching.